As Ian said, I work on the BBC News social team. I've been there for almost 3 years now. I'm a senior journalist on the team, and basically we work across all formats. So here's a nice picture of my offices in Salford. Actually looks sunny for the first time ever. And this is my favourite mug because I'm kind of a big deal on YouTube, and I've been the YouTube lead for BBC News Social for the last 2 years. So can everybody see this? Yeah, okay, cool. So yeah, so this is the BBC News social team. I thought I'd give you a little insight into the people behind all of our platforms. It's not just posting tweets, we make videos, we do graphics, it's a bit of everything. There's never a day that's the same. And I find it really fun. I've been working in social media for about 10 years now. And yeah, every day is different, which is why I love it so much. And in the time I've been our YouTube lead, I got to go to the YouTube News Summit as well in Paris in April, which was so interesting. And I may have stolen some insights to give to you today from when I went to the summit. So, you need to just share the knowledge, guys. Cool. So why use YouTube for news? YouTube has its own vision for news, which is encouraging and helpful for journalists that they actually want to work with us. And their vision was basically to enable all the world's stories to be shared and understood through the most comprehensive, diverse and engaging news experience, which I feel like is kind of every journalist kind of goal, in a less jargony marketing sort of spiel that YouTube have done here. So that's what they want to achieve. They've drastically kind of increased their audience for news over the last few years. As you can see on this graph, by the way, there's literally only 4 graphs on this. I'm not going to kill you by graphs. They kill me, so I'm not going to kill you with graphs. But this one here, we can see that top line, that's Facebook, and that's really dropped off in the last sort of 10 years or so. YouTube has still been quite steady, but it's definitely increased. And then we can see sort of the steepest inclines there are definitely Instagram, and also TikTok. A few others on there that are sort of dying off slightly, and aren't as trusted by audiences, but we can really see that YouTube is mega steady, and also increasing gradually. Also in line with this, so YouTube is increasing for how people find their news and go to YouTube for it, but it's also sort of following the trend that audiences are turning away from traditional TV news and more towards social media and personality-based news. So this graph on the left, you can see that this is split by countries. So that dark blue line is the UK, and the orange line is the US. You can really see that drop off in UK audiences using like television news around the kind of COVID lockdowns, and then that like leveling out a bit, and it's sort of following the same pattern as everyone else. But if we look on the graph on the right hand side, we can see that as those audiences have declined using TV news, social media has picked up, and definitely kind of UK, so like it's really picking up there. So the question is YouTube the answer for news publishers to help fill that gap with TV kind of news dropping down? Well, we can sort of see that there is a presence of news publishers across YouTube already. These stats are from the Press Gazette from January this year, so things have changed. Not to blow my own trumpet, but on this graph, BBC is down as having 17.2 million subscribers. We now have 18.9. So if nobody else has changed in this ranking, we're up there and we'll be at the top. But who knows, because I know a lot of other channels have grown this year. So we'll see how that goes in January when they're released again. But you can see these are the top 20 English language news publishers. And yeah, some pretty standard companies you'd expect to see there: Vice, CNN, Al Jazeera, Fox News, Vox, which really kind of led the way about sort of 6-7 years ago in kind of their formats on YouTube, and actually probably changed the way people use YouTube as well as how YouTube sort of presented itself. and manage its content as well. So yeah, they're probably the biggest ones there that you're used to seeing as news publishers on YouTube. So why use YouTube for news? I'm going to look a bit at content. So it's a place where you can produce and promote multiple types of video and audio, any content you're producing. It's a great platform to house the best of your content. You can use it as a portfolio to promote yourself as a journalist just on your own or as part of a bigger brand. And then part of that, you can then grow the recognition of your own brand or your brand or the brand of the company you work for. Another part of it is audience. It has huge potential for reaching younger audiences. In the last 10 years, a lot of children, now teenagers, now young adults, have grown up using YouTube from watching sort of children's videos from being very small to then watching gamers to influencers. So they're used to having it as an everyday part of their life. And one challenge we have with social media and news is making sure we're bringing the news to where the audience is. So it's capturing those audiences where they dwell and get all their information from. And doing that on YouTube is key to sort of news publishers getting that next generation of audience. It also has opportunities to grow habitual and returning audiences. These are audiences that come back for more. Habitual, basically, you want them to build habits. So you want them to be like, oh, that program's dropping at 6 p.m. on Sunday on YouTube. I need to make sure I remember to watch that. That's a habit. You've built a return audience member. And YouTube has functions for you to be able to do that. And then you can also reach multiple audiences, for example, through different playlists. It's not just based around the audience's loyal to your channel. It's around topics as well, which leads me to my next point, which is discoverability and collaboration. YouTube is a search engine, and it's literally a great place to have your content. Like the discoverability for topic-based, personality-based is huge. It's literally owned by Google. So the opportunity is really there to have your content found as long as you're selling it as best you can. There's also now the opportunity for collaboration, which we've seen on other platforms such as Instagram and TikTok. And you can now do that between accounts and also so they could be people you're working with, or if you're part of a brand, different brand accounts as well. So what are the biggest challenges for news publishers on YouTube? I mean, there's probably quite a few, but we'll just look at a couple. So first one is access to content. And this is probably something, if you're looking at it from a point of view of being a student, you don't work for anyone yet, you're just doing your own work. Access to content is difficult because it's sort of like, where do I start? And essentially you need to have content to be able to post. And a plan as well. Plans are good. But the good thing with YouTube is that you can share videos, you can share images / graphics plus audio as well. So there's various different types of content that can be shared. Unsurprisingly, news networks based around sort of videos and broadcasts are growing the most in terms of news on YouTube. That was in the Reuters news report from 2025. And that's not surprising because they literally have all the content. So an example of this is obviously BBC News. There's so much content on BBC News. And that there's so much access to it. So you can kind of see here we've got BBC Sounds, which has got the daily kind of podcasts on there. We then have our daily podcast that goes up on our YouTube account, Newscast, with Adam Fleming. Then we also have the channel, which runs 24 hours. We have the UK channel, then the world channel as well. Then we have the website, which has all our written work, but also that has Storyfalls in it as well. So really graphic-led pieces, as well as commissioned videos and audio too. And then, of course, we have BBC iPlayer as well. So it's all finding that balance of what content lives where and how you can repurpose it for different platforms. But if you don't have that, it is a challenge. And I will get to that later, so don't panic. The other challenge is news avoidance. So 39% of people say they often or sometimes actively avoid news. There has been a wide decline in interest in news, sort of across Northern Europe and the world, with more people saying they're worn out by the news, up from sort of the last couple of years. That's up from 26% to 41%. And as somebody who works in the news, like, I'm actually not surprised. It is really heavy, and it can be a lot working in it. So for people that want to just dip in and out, you can sort of see where they go, oh no, I'll check out. But we still want to make sure people are informed and they're not avoiding important things, being misled, being pushed to things that could essentially misinform. So we want to make sure they're still getting the information that's needed. And how we do that is we adapt, as we always sort of have across social media. So two of the most popular YouTube channels, we've got the Joe Rogan Experience and Diary of a CEO. No matter your opinions on either of those podcasts, they are incredibly popular, and there's a lot to be learned from podcasts like them, which are consumed on a daily basis by people across the world, the internet, and we can learn from that and produce content that could mimic that, could match that, could challenge that, and ultimately as well, we are already sort of seeing that across brands. So this is CBC, which is like the Canada's BBC. If I've got that wrong and somebody Canadian is on here, I'm really sorry. But basically they've got a really cool explainer series called About That. And it's a guy called Andrew Chang, and he does like little like mid-form explainers on certain news topics. And as you can see, he does this in horizontal format as well as vertical format. And they're really snappy. They do really well. Like the Israel-Iran ceasefire, that one's on nearly 300k views. And it's really like fast-paced, and I love them. I think they're really good. And I think that's a way forward for a lot of news publishers in combating news avoidance. Another thing I wanted to just quickly mention is how kind of like next gen news creators are reaching audiences that like traditional news media outlets just aren't. This guy was actually at the YouTube summit in Paris in April, Hugo Decrypt, and he basically was a young journalist for a French publisher, and then just I think he could make more money on YouTube on his own channel, to be quite honest. So he splintered off, and he now has his own brand, and he does daily and weekly explainers around the news, breaks it down for a younger audience, which then trickles into an older audience, and is really popular for under 35s in France. And yeah, he was just saying when he was there about how he saw a gap that wasn't there, that a gap in the market and content that just wasn't there for younger people interested in the news, like him and his friends. So he decided to create it. And yeah, he's super interesting. He showed us a clip of him in the White House, like questioning Trump. And I think that's something we'll see a bit more, if not news publishers sort of mimicking that with who they have in front of their cameras. So how to use YouTube for news. I'm telling you all about it, and you're like, come on, Tash, tell me what I've got to do. So I'm going to break it down sort of format style. Some of my colleagues would probably argue that's not long form, that's mid form, but I'm just going to, this is just for the sake of this. If you disagree with me, tell me later. But this is just for the sake of this, and there is kind of wriggle room basically. So long form video. Long form video, often called VODs, you might hear this, which is video on demand. They're generally pre-recorded videos in horizontal format, kind of classic YouTube vibe. Longer videos equal longer watch time, hopefully, and more monetary potential for ads on YouTube. But the main thing is you have to keep your audience engaged. Like, what publishers really want is that watch time and people staying engaged with their videos. Like, you'll see it kind of in analytics, it kind of drops off after the first few minutes. But you want to sort of keep people as long as you can. Some examples here. So we've got this, I think most of these actually are podcasts, but I'll talk about podcasts specifically more later. But it's a great way to have long form content on news publications channels. So we've got this from Channel 4 as their forecast, and nearly 40 minutes on the Starmer versus Streeting drama from a couple of weeks ago. Then we've got this 30-minute piece from ITV around Prince George, and that's very much kind of like talking heads, talking about things that have been happening and experts around the royal family. Got Newscast, which is our daily podcast that we have on YouTube. This one's from last week, around kind of Trump and the BBC. And then also this piece from the Daily Mail, which I actually love this format because it's so simple. And I think a lot of the time really simple formats can just absolutely shine through and take off. So it's called Battleboard from Daily Mail, and if you've not seen it, go check it out. It's literally like a guy in his hands talking to, like, it's kind of like Art Attack, and he talks through like maps, and a lot of the time it's to do with sort of wars and conflicts. So there's quite a few on like Ukraine and Russia, but it's really engaging, it's really interesting, and also saves you a lot of time on graphics if you can't do the graphics. And I think that kind of, it's not rough and ready because it is high production, but something like that makes it a bit more authentic, and I really like that. And so in terms of like long form video, I'd say generally they're like 20 minutes or more, but you have to make them engaging. They need to be something worthwhile of 20 minutes plus. It can't just be, well, we need 20 minutes, so we'll just talk for another 15. And it's like, well, what are you saying? So really plan them out. They're generally pre-recorded, so they're probably all scripted or have at least some structure to them. And I would say they're probably the hardest to produce just because of the sort of length of them and the production involved that's needed to sort of keep them going. And also, it's not just about producing one video, it's about producing the next one and the next one. So just think about that when you're looking at your content. Mid-form video. So mid-form video, as it sort of says on the tin, I would say is under 20 minutes, so not quite long form. It can also be a variety of things, so it could be news clips. We quite heavily use this on BBC News, where we clip packages from our channel and put them directly onto the YouTube channel. They can also be video moments or scripted explainers as well, so sort of like what I mentioned with CBCs about that. Mid-form, it's probably easier to keep a good watch time on these in terms of like YouTube analytics speak, and as long as it's over 8 minutes, you can still get monetary potential from ads. I'd say these are easier to produce than long form just because they are shorter, but you have to keep people engaged in watching them, so make sure you're really structuring it and you're getting those top moments, maybe teasing them at the front, or you're having sort of a really punchy opener there. Some of the examples here, we've got Channel 5 live in Bewdley. I probably said that wrong. And, you know, it's just classic, like, poor weather presenter in the pouring rain, by some water, looking extremely wet, talking about Storm Claudia, but we love the classics. That had like 1 million views, I think. So, yeah, very classic kind of news moment there. This one's from TLDR News, which I love how they present things, and it's like an explainer about leaving ECHR, so they've got their like fun graphics on the thumbnail. This one's from yesterday or today on BBC News. It's the interview with the Google boss and him talking about AI, so it's normally quite a good Mid-form's quite a good length to have our interviews at, because sometimes we can have a correspondent get in touch with us and be like, I spoke to the Google boss for an hour. And we're like, great, we don't want all of that. Unless he literally says something amazing every 5 minutes. We'll say, lovely, please cut that down. And then we'll take select cut. So it's actually quite nice to see that this is only nearly 8 minutes. But we will get ones that are like 30 minutes and that sort of thing. And then we have the News Explained series from ITV here, which we have a similar one. I think a lot of brands do now, which are kind of mid-form explainers. So you can see that's like 4.5 minutes, 4 minutes, and then that one's 12 minutes. So it's really kind of having that digestible chunk of explainer that people will absorb, but they'll stick around for. We know that attention spans are fading and it's hard to hold on to them. So mid-form is quite a good middle ground for providing good quality content to an audience that maybe won't stick around for an hour-long program anymore. And yeah, with all of these, just have a think, like, now that you sort of know what long form is and what mid form is, like, what mid form videos do you watch? What long form videos do you watch? The next one is obviously short form. And on YouTube, that is Shorts, the Shorts feed. So that is YouTube's vertical video platform. It has a completely different feed on YouTube compared to the main VODs feed. So therefore, actually, you find you have a completely different audience, and it tends to skew younger, just because an older audience is more likely to sit and search and scroll through those horizontal videos, look through, find the one they want to watch. Whereas our TikTok generation prefer to just swipe through and scroll through that vertical feed and take in whatever comes their way until the algorithm matches up with what they want. So it's great. It's great to do in terms of if you want to reach a younger audience that you're maybe not hitting with your VODs. Shorts does tend to skew slightly younger, so think about kind of reaching into doing more shorts maybe. You can, if you've got a VOD that's got a really interesting like part of it or quote, reversion that and do it as in a vertical format. You see this all the time. How many times have you liked a video on TikTok or Instagram or Shorts that's actually a smaller clip from a longer podcast that you're then like, oh, I need to go listen to that. So really, it's great promo for those kind of longer form videos. It's also good if you are working on other platforms. You can use TikToks and Instagram Reels for your YouTube Shorts. That's kind of our workflow. We do cherry pick, so we won't, everything that goes on TikTok won't then go on Instagram and won't then go on Shorts. We sort of pay attention to what topics do well, what style does well for us on YouTube. These are a few examples here. So they love world leaders on our YouTube, absolutely love them. So Trump, anything Trump tends to do quite well for us. We have this breaking format as well, which is quite nice at surfacing our breaking news and videos on Shorts. We then also have our TikTok and short form presenters too. So Lucy's here in this chatbots one, and then Tyler's there on our far right one there. And we do find that sort of personality led, that works really well for us on TikTok. It's sometimes a bit hit and miss on other platforms. Then they're really good for those kind of moments like, oh my God, look at this nuclear tower collapsing. And people like love those. Like that is like YouTube bread and butter. And so any of those moments, they love it on YouTube. And then the videos that I love to do and love to help produce are ones with our correspondents out there in those dangerous places. So we have Jeremy Bowen here, who I've lovingly cut with his eyes closed. Sorry, Jeremy. And here he was talking about the Gaza ceasefire agreement, and just sort of, we had a lot of questions in our comments and we'd asked him to write a script around the questions we were getting in our initial videos on those on social, and he answered a few of those for us. And that, again, going back to kind of the content that you have access to, we are so lucky at BBC News that we can just like call up Jeremy Bowen and be like, hey Jeremy, are you free to do a TikTok for us? But not everybody has that luxury. So it's about kind of following those styles if you can, and being as informative in a creative way as well. Another thing you can do on YouTube is live streaming. This is really popular for some news accounts. It's great for breaking or rolling news. Again, very similar to just, TV. But people prefer to consume lives on the YouTube app on their TVs rather than go to a TV news channel. Like, it's growing, it's increasing. It is so interesting seeing that pick up more, and our the portion of things viewed on a smart TV on our channel is so interesting, and it's completely changing. And it used to sort of be, you'd look at things and it would be like mobile, tablet, desktop, and it's just completely reshaping. It's so interesting. So they're great for breaking or rolling news. Really good for audience engagement. You get the live kind of chat going as you're live with the video. You can also respond to those comments, maybe clear things up. We've done it where we've had rolling content around I think it was the UK election. And as we got news in, we dropped links into articles. So in case people wanted to read more on certain things that had just been spoken about on the channel. It's really good for reaching new followers as well, going live. And often, if you're lucky, YouTube will feature you on their news tab. They'll be like, oh, this is live and it's about news, and they'll feature it on there. And it does support kind of an increased amount of views over a shorter space of time than what you would get with a VOD. I've already said that it's consumed as TV viewing. I'm getting ahead of myself in slides. But yeah, some examples here. When I used to work at newspapers, I literally used to have a tab open with Sky News Live on all day. So I've really fed into this as well. So yeah, Sky News, their current live, which is just their channel all the time, has been live since December 2024. So they're really leaning into it. And every time you go on there, there's at least 5,000 people watching. So it's a well-known live stream, and it's, yeah, that performs really well for them. They do it with other programs. You can see there, that was the UK Tonight, and that, I think that just started when I clicked that, so that one was up to about 1,000 later on. You can also use it for programming, like how you'd look at a TV guide and be like, oh, my program's going to be on. Not sure how many of you are actually old enough to have ever done that, but you can also, there's functions within YouTube where you can set up notifications for programs that you want. This is Julie Hartley Brewer's one on Talk TV, and you could say notify me, and that would let you know that her program was then going live on YouTube. ITV News at 10, I really like that they do it for their News at 10 every day. That goes live, you know when it is, it's at 10. It says it on the tin, it goes live, loads of people watch it, or just have it on sort of in the background, and I believe that does quite well for them. And then other examples of using lives, which we like to do, are sort of those news moments, and it being like Trump's just arrived in the UK for his state visit. We love all that, pomp and ceremony, there's all the guards outside the palace meeting him. We'll also do it for big events such as elections. One of our biggest ones was King Charles's coronation. So really sort of making it event viewing, not just it constantly being available, which really supports kind of audiences' trust, and seeing maybe when it's a lot of places doing it, being able to pick and choose who they like as a news publisher and going, oh no, I'll watch their coverage of it in that sense. So yeah, live is another option. And then finally, picture posts, which not a lot of people know about, not a lot of publishers use, not a lot of creators use. I would be interested to know later on if anyone knew about posts on YouTube or have used them. They basically, if you go on a profile on a channel on YouTube, at the top where it says like videos, podcasts, it says posts, and they're on there. They were originally known as community posts, I think, because they are good for engagement, and they're the place there where you can really get comments kind of kicking off in like one static place. It's the only place you can really get like click-throughs on referral links on YouTube. So if you have an editor telling you need people to come back to your website to read the article, this is where you want to share it to like lure them back to your website. And that's always kind of the ongoing challenge with social media, is kind of you're on that platform and that platform wants you to stay there, but also you work for a company and that company needs people to come back to their website. It's not the best for discoverability, as it doesn't really land in home feeds that much, but it is good for a returning audience. So if your subscribers will see your posts and then are likely to comment on them and interact with them. Some examples here. So it's kind of like a tweet, like back in the good old days where it's like a headline, a link, and then a little picture. And you can see Sky have done one here. There's also other functions. So Daily Mail have done this poll, which they do quite a lot of, and they get quite good interactions on. We've done one here on Vegemite, and we found it's quite good to have like quite fun images on like international stories. They tend to do quite well. And then The Sun here, who you would expect would want people to come back to their site, have a couple too, but not a lot of publishers do them. They are probably, I would say, the most time consuming for the least reward. We sort of get around it just because we are such a large team, but we repurpose our content. So that probably also went on WhatsApp, LinkedIn, and I'm forgetting another platform, maybe Instagram. So we really do like kind of make the most with the content that we've got, and we'll share it across different platforms, which is definitely something I would recommend doing. And don't feel like you're spamming, because honestly, you've got different audiences across different ones, and you'll just build up your brand recognition or your own journalism recognition. So hopefully that will make sense around those formats. If you have any questions around them, please feel free to ask me later. I know it's a lot to take in. They wanted to touch on podcasts, because podcasts have basically taken over everything. And it sort of kicked off probably just before lockdowns. And now everyone's doing them. So yeah, so they've grown so much in popularity that YouTube have created an entire section for them. And they're largely presented as like IKEA lounge setups. Like there was a time when podcasts were literally just audio. I'm sorry if that shocks people. So now sometimes within the industry we call them vodcasts, because actually it's not just in your ear, it is in vision as well, and that is also what is expected. YouTube has become like a preferred place for under 25s to consume their favorite podcasts. And that comes in the form of open tab listening or second screen viewing, to also watching kind of full studio productions of them. And that's seen kind of the popularity trickling into other platforms. I'm not sure if you guys know what these are. So open tab listening is literally just being on your laptop and you've got another tab open with the podcast in, so you're literally listening to it, it's just in another tab. Or second screen viewing, you have it open on your laptop but you're actually on your phone, or you have it on your tablet and you're like gaming at the same time. They're made for that audio experience, but they are also presented in visual form too. 84% of Gen Z watch podcasts, which I think is so interesting. Also, please keep an eye out for it on other platforms. I have a suspicion that not every podcast clip that you see on TikTok is actually from a podcast. I've spoken about this before, but just watch out for those microphones that are there and you're instantly like, oh my God, it's a podcast. It probably isn't. They've probably just bought a microphone, because people are so used to consuming recognizable things that it's been acknowledged that they'll be like, oh, people will hang around because they think I'm a trusted voice on this because I've got a podcast. But yeah, always go and check whether there definitely is a podcast behind that podcast clip that you liked, because sometimes there isn't, and it's very sneaky. So yeah, and I thought it was funny. I actually was in a feedback session the other day, and somebody said they were sick of IKEA Lounge podcasts, which I loved. That literally so many of them do look like you've just walked into IKEA. Not naming any names. But yeah, some examples here. We've got the News Agents, which actually has its own like channel by itself. It's not part of the its mothership. The Daily from New York Times, they've kept that very classic. That is literally just an audio format, and then it has a static image throughout with a picture based on the topic of the podcast, and the picture of the person presenting it. We've got Newscast there, which has its own studio and then kind of bumps to other studios across the BBC if needed. I think that's Adam talking to Chris Mason, and he's probably in Westminster somewhere doing something politicsy. And then we have Navarro's podcast here, which is very much led by the guy on the left, speaking through certain topics and then cutting to people on Zoom. It's very simple. They're all very simple and sort of made in the fact that they are simple to consume, simple to watch if you actually want to watch it, but also if you just want to have it open on another tab, then go right ahead and do that, and it's still a really good audio experience. So this is something I always get asked on these masterclasses, and I'm really sorry to tell you there is no magic right answer. When should you post content? If there was a one fix-all response, I'd tell you it all. Actually, no, I wouldn't. I'd sell it to the highest bidder. But it doesn't exist. But there are things that you can do, whether you've got a whole library full of content or you're just starting out and you want to kind of produce your own videos. So first of all, assess kind of what you have and what you want to create. So how much content do you have? What do you want to make? What can you make? Be consistent in your posting. So if you've only got enough content for once a week, do it once a week. You could launch like 3 at once and then trickle out a few more. But plan ahead. Like planning is really key and part of it. But also you can be reactive too and jump in. Think about how you can utilize all the parts of YouTube. I've laid out quite a few for you, but as I said, like Shorts is a completely different feed to VODs. So if you've got a longer piece, you could then maybe like cut it down and stick it on Shorts as well. Use your analytics to see when audiences are visiting your platform. So if more of them are visiting like in the evenings, maybe arrange to post it sort of late afternoon, early evening, vice versa. Just really kind of have a look and see who is watching and when, and actually if that lines up with actually who you want to be watching it. And basically just don't panic, because content has a longer lifespan on YouTube. We've definitely found this where things maybe we upload them and they don't really do much for a few hours a day, a couple of days, and then suddenly they take off. And that's just because that's how YouTube works. Like, as I mentioned, it's a search engine, and it could be it's not found until kind of much later on in its kind of life on YouTube. So audiences. As I mentioned, kind of returning viewers are crucial to news organisations. They build that kind of audience base that are kind of subscribed to your channel, trust you, want to kind of view your content, and really sort of, yeah, really come back sort of regularly to watch those videos. Within YouTube analytics, they do break it down with returning viewers and new viewers, and they do also break it down in analytics where people found it. So examples of that could be from the search button, but then also from the playlist as well themselves, or just from the channel homepage. How do you make these return viewers? As I mentioned before, consistency in content is so important. You also want to encourage engagement. So engagement, like comments in the comment section, it being shared, people liking it or disliking it. And you can also do this like directly, like we see that all the time. It's almost, I feel like you just don't hear it anymore. Like click like and subscribe, click like and subscribe, click like and subscribe. Like how much do you hear that but not hear that every time you watch a YouTube video? Let me know in the comments what you think. Yeah, isn't that interesting? Just let me know in the comments what you think about that. You hear that all the time in videos, and you're not really like, oh, why are they talking to me? You're like, yeah, I will let you know. No, I won't subscribe. So it makes a reaction happen. And then yeah, set clear goals of who you are trying to reach. As I mentioned, you kind of want to have an idea in your head who you're making content for. And if you're really missing that and you see that in your analytics, just like have a look through and see why that might be happening. And maybe have a play around with like timings or length or intros. Like there's so many ways that you can test it. And something I don't have on here, but literally like don't be afraid to fail. Like one thing I love about working in social media is it's so creative and it's so changeable, but you can try so many different things and some things won't work and some things will work and you'll be like, why has that worked? I don't understand. But that's fine, because then you can like hit the sweet spot and be like, this is great, okay, we'll keep doing this until the platform changes its algorithm. But it's all good fun. So I mentioned before about creating habits. So you want to give your audience something to come back to or watch next. Podcast or series content can build kind of returning and habitual audiences. You can do this with kind of timed or episodic content. And those episodes can kind of be consumed like weekly, monthly, or just binged in one go. If you've got episodic content, like clearly label what it is, like episode 1, part 1. It's not weird to do that. I know sometimes it can be like, oh, I can't put too much in the headline. I can't put too much in the... No, just stick it in there. Like we're so used to consuming content in parts, especially on TikTok in shorter form content. It's really good to signpost it, and we'll kind of encourage people to then come back to your channel to find that part 2, to find that part 3. You can also signpost using kind of YouTube tools, like going back to the full playlist or other episodes. So we've got Downstream here from Navarro Media, and literally in the headline for the playlist, it's like watch interviews every Sunday at 3 p.m. When is it? They've literally just told us. And then we have this one here, which is a public broadcast channel in Germany, and they're 8 p.m. It's kind of like their news at 10. It's their news at 8, and that program goes live every single day at 8 p.m. They've got the time there explicitly in the headline. You know when it's happening. Discoverability, which definitely isn't a word, or it wasn't until about a year ago, maybe 2 years ago. So yeah, YouTube is a search engine. That literally could be a screenshot from Google search. It's not. It's a screenshot from YouTube search. But you can see kind of the examples that come up, probably influenced by me doing it on the BBC News account. But yeah, all the things that come up when you search kind of Ukraine war, it will serve you all kind of the latest. And we find a lot of stuff around Ukraine war comes via search and people wanting the latest update around it. So yeah, it's a search engine. It's literally owned by Google. So don't forget that. Headlines are so important on your videos. Definitely try and use SEO, which is making sure they're search engine optimized when you're writing a headline for your video. This basically means using keywords around the topics that are in your video. Front load with a main topic maybe, and then also just be concise and also accurate, which is very important. So some examples of some nice headlines here from ITV, going straight in kind of Denmark's immigration policy, like that was trending the other day before the announcement. And then it's got quite a nice graphic above it. Storm Claudia, they front loaded that, like that was such a high search term last week. And they've just done Storm Claudia, what to expect as UK prepares for, blah, 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 blah. And then another one here, Explained. So I think this is part of their Explained series. So they're front loading that, but also they're explaining something and they want you to know that. So it's a proper breakdown of what is going on. Names are really important in YouTube headlines. So of like world leaders, so like Donald Trump, Vladimir Putin, Volodymyr Zelensky, they always tend to do quite well when you name drop them. So don't just be like UK leader meets US leader. You need to properly name them because, again, that's what people are searching for. Saw a couple of them then, but another key thing for discoverability are thumbnails. These are the covers for your videos that you can upload separately to when you're uploading your VOD to YouTube. They're really important to getting people to engage in your content. To be honest, a lot of the time people will look at your thumbnail before they'll look at your headline. That's just how it works. We're very visual animals. And they just need to be simple but stand out. And there's lots of ways you can do it. It's sort of about finding your own style, your company style, doing it that way. But basically you want to explain what's in your video in just an image. So do you want text on the image? Do you need to follow some like branding or a particular style? And just think like, would you click on it? So we've got a few here. There's no text on this one. It's literally just a nice image of Ben and Eubank. I know nothing about boxing. I'm not going to pretend to. But it was obviously a big fight. And if you're interested in the story, you know exactly who these two people are. You can take a bit more from the background image there. There's them fighting. So it's actually telling us what it is. It's got the Channel 4 news branding there, so we know who's delivering it. This one from TLDR is quite busy, but I quite like it. So we've got kind of another headline on the thumbnail. We've got a picture of Keir Starmer. I mean, they're really hitting that audience that is so prevalent on YouTube of like young men by literally shouting young men at them and talking about unemployment. So it's busy, but I think it works. It's quite interesting. And then a classic, like this is just CNN. You know straight away it's CNN. We've got Trump there. We've got that guy from Fox News whose name I've completely forgotten. But yeah, very kind of classic branding there. So they're all very different. It's kind of thinking about what matches your style and the video that you're producing. Not long left, guys, don't worry. Collaboration. So YouTube now allows for collaboration between accounts and content, which is really, I find it really exciting. That's because I'm sad and I love social media. So you can now send collaborations, say that 10 times fast. You can now send them when you're uploading VODs. So in the box that opens when you're uploading them, you can then select another account to send kind of a collab request to. When you're uploading shorts, you can then link them to VODs as well. So say you did that where you clipped a section of a longer VOD and put that on shorts, you could then link that short back to that VOD. So it's kind of all connected. That's also quite good for getting people out of that shorts feed and onto your channel. So it will break that cycle of people just scrolling through and going, oh, there's a longer version to this video and it's right here. Let me just click through on it. So it's kind of finding that way to break those cycles and get people onto your channel. Some examples here. So we've been doing them with like BBC Sport, Newsnight and Sounds as well. ITV have been doing it with ITV Sport too, and then Sky News have been doing it with their main account and then also splinter accounts that they've launched as well. So it's kind of good as well if you've got an account that's got a lot of subscribers. It's a great way to introduce your subscribers to an account that maybe doesn't have as many. What's next? I don't know, but if I had to guess for what is next for news publishers on YouTube, I think they'll probably work more with influencers, and if not work with them, maybe try and mimic them a bit more. We've got Dylan Page here, also known as News Daddy, who started off on, I think he started off on TikTok, and now he's really taking off on YouTube as well. And he basically speaks about news stories kind of really simple. He's in his studio and pictures come up behind him, and he talks about them really enthusiastically. Do really rate News Daddy, and he always does kind of really detailed videos and accurate as well. But yeah, I could probably see people working with him, and then others too, like Hugo that I mentioned, and this other French one. So yeah, so just to say again, there's no magic or right answer. Look at the content you have, plan ahead, use the analytics, and don't panic.